Hello everyone, I'm Emma and we are here at the Pilates Taylor Studio in Berkhamsted. Today I will go through a sequence that will help lengthen our hamstrings. The hamstrings are the muscles at the back of our thighs and they are part of what we call the superficial back line in the fascia world, which means they are connected to the muscles along the spine, the neck, also the calf muscles. I will talk about more as we do the sequence. We're going to use a tennis ball, a TheraBand, ideally a strong TheraBand, or you could use a strap that is not elastic but you can hold, and also a rolled blanket. I will give you more details as we go along. So let's start. We are going to start sitting up with your legs straight in front of you. Keep an eye, the feet should be in line with the hip joints. And if you have a wall, it's better if you go against the wall. So you get a feedback from the wall and you know that your back is as long as possible. So you bring back of your pelvis very close to the wall behind you. And you keep the legs in front of you as straight as possible. If they can't be completely straight, they can be slightly bent. That is okay. First thing we do is we use the tennis ball. If we start with the right leg, we have to bend the left. You bring the foot as close as possible to your left seat bone. And we put the tennis ball underneath your right knee. You are somewhere in the middle, so keep an eye. You don't want the tennis ball out on the outer side of the back of the knee or on the inner side. You're somewhere in the middle. It's really the back of the knee. When you breathe out, think of lengthening the leg and lifting the heel off the floor. That will put pressure on the tennis ball. Breathing out, lengthening through your heel and lifting your heel and foot off the floor, and then you release. You do this a few times. What happens when you lift your foot? You're putting pressure on the tennis ball, and the tennis ball is pressing against the tendons of the hamstring. And we do it more or less 10 times, taking your time with soft breath. Always keeping an eye on the seat bone on the right side. That is heavy down. And if you've done it about 10 times, you release, you slide the other leg down. We take the tennis ball. You have a moment to sense how you feel now sitting upright with both legs straight in front of you. If there's any difference between the two legs or the sensation along the legs. And we're going to do the other leg, exactly the same thing. So you will bend now the right, and the tennis ball goes under your left knee. Sitting tall, and with a breath out, we lengthen and lift the heel off the mat. And then return. We do it 10 times if possible, keeping an eye on the foot. So when you breathe out and lengthen through the heel, you make sure the foot is flexed and not like this. Point. And one more time. And then finally relax. We take the tennis ball away. And once again, you sit tall with the legs straight in front of you. And then we continue on the next step of lengthening the hamstrings. For the next step, you lie down on your back. Let's keep the legs bent for now. And we're going to take the rolled blanket and we put it under the pelvis. So when you put the blanket under your pelvis, you just try to sense that your seat bones are below the blanket. So the blanket is right underneath the sacrum. With the blanket under the pelvis, we're going to do a very common movement in the Pilates world and in the Feldenkrais world as well, which I call it pelvic tilt. Let's keep the legs bent for now. And we're going to take the rolled blanket and we put it under the pelvis. So when you put the blanket under your pelvis, you just try to sense that your seat bones are below the blanket. So the blanket is right underneath the sacrum. With the blanket under the pelvis, we're going to do a very common movement in the Pilates world and in the Feldenkrais world as well, which I call it pelvic tilt. Curl a little bit, and that will take tailbone towards the ceiling. And then we go the other way with the pelvis, and the tailbone, including the seat bones, go a little bit down towards the mat. With this little tilt, and you can breathe any way you like, but we could follow the usual breathing of breathing in when the seat bones go down towards the floor, and then breathing out when you curl and tailbone and seat bones go up towards the ceiling. And we continue like this. You do at least 20. And this movement is just for you to actually sense the bones of the pelvis. They are important for this stretch just because the muscles are attached on the pelvis. If you've done about 20, then we move into the next step. The next step involves using the TheraBand. The TheraBand under your foot. Try to occupy it as much space as possible under the foot. And ideally a strong TheraBand. And we start with the knee bend. The foot as much as possible, the sole of the foot facing the ceiling. Now, before you continue, if you can hold the band with one hand and reach for your tennis ball, we bring the tennis ball on the seat bone on this side. Quite low, but you want it to touch the bone there. And we start with the knee bend, and with a breath out, you aim to open the back of your knee
as if the back of the knees is a mouth of a creature, and it opens with a breath out, with a breath in, softly closing. So better if you imagine a sea creature, so it is soft and fluid, with a breath out, opening, and with a breath in, closing a little bit. Throughout, you keep the tension on the band, and you keep pressure on the tennis ball. That is finding the seat bone. And it's all quite soft. Okay? Imagine you're a sea creature. Slightly closing the mouth at the back of the knee and opening. Now, we are not interested on whether you will straighten the knee or not. Ideally, we do want, but it might take a few repetitions until you do. What we do care about is that the foot is spreading, sole of the foot is facing the ceiling, and your seat bone is pressing on this tennis ball. You build up, you repeat this at least 10, 15 times. And then you keep your leg as long as possible. The foot is spreading, the toes have space between them. And holding the leg exactly where it is, we're going to repeat the pelvic tilt you did earlier. So we curl a little bit pelvis, and then we reach the tailbone, the seat bones down towards the mat. We curl, and the seat bones, the tailbone lift towards the ceiling, and then they go down towards your mat, almost hanging a little bit off the towel that you have there under your pelvis. And you repeat as much as possible without moving the leg like this, up and down. Your leg stays in one place. The idea is we have the leg, your thigh bone, locked in the same place while you move your pelvis in relation to your leg. As I mentioned before, the hamstrings are attached on the seat bones, and then they run along the back of the leg, and they are attached on the fibula and tibia, the bones of the lower leg, so they cross the knee. That's why how straight the knee is, or the stretch, is very important. But we're not gonna force it, because there's no point in straightening the leg and keeping the leg somewhere there. We really want to find a position that the thigh bone is vertical to your hip joint. And we work from there. And one last time, you reach your heel towards the ceiling. We take the final 5 breaths, spreading the toes, offering space at the back, at the bottom of your foot. And then slowly you bend. We bring the foot down. Let's take the tennis ball out of the way. I would like to also take the blanket from underneath the pelvis, and for a moment you straighten your legs to just observe how you feel. It is interesting to observe the sensation not only on the whole side, the back of the body, but also the front of the body. On the side that you walked and the other side. And now we are ready to do the other side. So you bend one leg, you bend the other leg. We put the blanket under the pelvis, finding the right place, so it's just under the sacrum. Then we take the tennis ball, we bring it low on the left side where you feel a bone. We want it to be just under the seat bone on the left side. And we are ready to do the other side. From here we try to have the band spread at the bottom of the foot. The balls of the foot definitely having contact with our band. Maybe some of the toes, part of the toes. And start with your knee bend. Have a moment to feel the back of your hip on this side, on the left side, really pressing against the towel. And feel the left seat bone pressing on the tennis ball you have there. Once you have this contact established, so once we have this attachment of the muscle anchored down, that's when we start to lengthen the foot towards the ceiling. With a breath in, you soften the knee. With a breath out, we want to open this cavity at the back of the knee. We open softly, and breath in, you soften again. So I call that organic stretch. You lengthen and you retract with your breath. They work together. Breathing in, breath out, you reach the foot towards the ceiling, keeping an eye that the sole of the foot is spreading, the toes have space between them. And the whole sole of the foot, the heel most importantly, reaching towards the ceiling. You might be able to feel one part of the hamstring being more tight than the other, because there is one on the inner side, the other on the outer side, the other one is more in the middle and inside. It has the three bundles, the muscle. Now we keep the leg as long as possible, which means as straight as possible. Yeah, you will feel the quad, this muscle, engaging. We keep the leg as long as possible, and we go to do the pelvic tilt. A little bit lifting sit bones and tailbone towards the ceiling, and then reaching tailbone and sit bones down to the mat. Of course, you continue breathing, and something Also important is the movement is a micro movement. So don't expect to go up and down with your leg. But you should be able to feel tailbone lifting, and then tailbone and the seat bone going down to the mat, seat bone pressing on your tennis ball. And you continue. We want to do at least 10 or 15 pelvic tilts. And then we keep pressing the tennis ball with your seat bone. You keep reaching your heel bone towards the ceiling, spreading the toes of your foot. And you do the last few breaths. Imagine your breath traveling along the back of your leg to find there that area where the hamstring attaches at the lower leg, the tibia and the fibula. One last breath. And finally, soften the knee. We take the band off. You bring your foot down. Slowly. We take the tennis ball out. Slowly lift your pelvis. We take the blanket off. And you have a moment. Slowly straighten one leg and then the other leg. You have a moment on your back. Slowly, you turn onto one side to come up to sitting. And we want, for the last time, to sit upright with the legs straight in front of you, like you did in the beginning of this sequence, to notice the difference. How easy it is. I choose not to go against the wall now, but having a few breaths. I feel a lot more grounded through the seat bones. Slightly more comfortable sitting upright now. But this was the first step, lengthening the back line. So there will be a few more sequences connected to the superficial back line. So we will work with the calves more, soles of the feet, and also the muscles along your spine. I will see you very soon. Thank you.